I'm Nolan Beilstein, and welcome to another episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing, a podcast where I interview young people about their journeys in manufacturing, how they intend to influence the industry, and what they are looking for from an employer. For this episode, I welcome Maggie Blaney, a 26-year-old solutions engineer at Epicor. Blaney grew up watching How It's Made and always felt drawn to manufacturing. Despite the early interest, she pursued a communications degree in college and joined Epicor after a friend recommended the company. Blaney began her career with Epicor as a business development representative. After 10 months, she transitioned into an associate solutions engineer role and now works as a solutions engineer, where she walks the shop floor and speaks with prospective clients who are exploring new software solutions. Before we hear from Blaney, please make sure to like and share this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. To view previous episodes, visit manufacturing.net. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please get in touch with me, Nolan Beilstein, at nolan@in.com. All right, Maggie, well, thank you for joining Gen Z in Manufacturing. First point I wanted to talk about was that you mentioned to me in our email exchange that you grew up consistently watching How It's Made and had always been drawn to manufacturing, but you still chose a communications degree in college, and I was wondering why you think that initial interest didn't immediately translate into pursuing a career in manufacturing.
Yeah, I think kind of growing up watching How It's Made, it was more kind of just watching the process that kind of drew me to it. And then I suppose once I hit college, I kind of hit that kind of college. I don't know what to do with my life. And the communications major, it just seemed pretty broad. Allowed me to kind of try some things out, ask people what they like about their jobs, so on and so forth. And through doing that, it kind of led me to Epicor and led me to the manufacturing side and kind of used that interest that kind of started and kind of stemmed from there, if that makes sense.
When you were a kid, do you remember what your opinion was of a manufacturing job? What you thought it would be like, or what you thought a person would need to be like to have a job like that?
Yeah, I guess maybe when I was young, I didn't know too much about it. I guess kind of watching on TV, they kind of glamorize it a little bit, and kind of through learning a little bit more about the manufacturing life and kind of manufacturing jobs themselves. I guess it's kind of shown me kind of how nitty gritty it can get. Obviously, on the Discovery Channel, they can edit things out, make things a little bit more seamless there, and there's a lot that goes into it, and I think from then to now I've kind of figured that kind of shift out.
And now that you've had exposure firsthand seeing factory floors, do you think that what the general population thinks about manufacturing, is that what it is, or do they have the wrong idea?
That's a good question. I think they probably skim the surface of what it could be, but kind of getting kind of firsthand experience, you could say, on kind of seeing what people do on a day-to-day basis, kind of seeing obviously what software does with them on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of showed me that there's a lot more that goes into it, a lot more in the background, a lot more that even has to happen before they can even start their day process. So I think from the outside looking in at one of those jobs, I could say, oh, that's an easy thing to do. It's just 1, 2, 3 steps, we're done. But there's really so much more that goes into it. And I think that now I see all of those little steps. And I think that that's what kind of intrigues me even more into it. And especially going into different companies, you can just see that every single company does it a little bit different, sometimes a lot of bit different. And that's kind of the benefit that I get. I get to see how a lot of different people do their kind of day-to-day life, and kind of how a lot of people do kind of similar steps a little bit differently. And it kind of takes that skim the surface, and I get to see a little bit more underground.
So how do you think that manufacturing companies can better educate the general population of how it actually is to work in a factory or have one of these jobs?
Oh, I would say, even just kind of putting it more out there. I know that I always am on kind of the companies that I'm visiting. I go on their websites, I see kind of things that they are doing, but sometimes it's a little bit more historical data, I guess you could say, kind of just events that have happened a little bit too far in the past. So kind of keeping a more updated kind of record of what they've been doing. I think that intrigues people a little bit more into seeing exactly what it could be, what they've been working on, maybe what they've been improving upon. maybe what they have coming down the pipeline into something they've been working on. It kind of depends on the type of factory that we're talking about, the type of kind of company that we're dealing with, but kind of just getting it more out in the open on what they're doing and kind of how they've improved processes or what they're doing currently. I think that could kind of give people a little bit more insight into what they could expect if they're going along that route into a manufacturing job.
So back to your initial interest in the industry, how do you think that companies can bridge that gap between the raw curiosity that you had and then turning it into actual career consideration?
That's a good question. I would say allowing people to kind of just get more of a hands-on experience into what they are actually doing, even just like allowing people to walk the shop floor and kind of see the step-by-step basis onto what they're doing. Sometimes I feel like kind of walking into a front office or even looking it up online, you don't get the full kind of threshold of what they're doing and what they've been doing, and kind of what that could look like. But as you get to kind of walk through their processes, you can really see what they're doing, and that kind of opens up a whole new page of kind of the intrigue of a manufacturing job. And I'm not necessarily out there on the shop floors, but I get to walk them on a day-to-day basis. And so I get to see a lot of the different processes that happen. And that itself intrigued me into kind of staying in this role, pursuing kind of more of the manufacturing side of the career.
So let's talk about the first job you had with Epicor. What were your duties as a business development representative?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the BDR role, I reported to the manufacturing side of Epicor. So basically, I was aligned with a territory manager, they're called. And so I would look up, kind of dive into different company websites, see if they were a good fit for what our software can offer. And then from there, I would try to get in contact or get the best contact at those different companies and try to introduce them into what our software could do, or try to kind of flesh out what their current processes look like and kind of how they could be improved by possibly using our software, and kind of where we could go hand in hand on kind of helping one another there. And then from there, I kind of handed the ball over to our territory manager that really took it through the whole sales process from there. So I had a little toe in the door there on the sales process, but now as a solutions engineer, I get to be a little bit more hands-on with that process as well.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit more on how you transitioned into your current role?
Yeah, so at Epicor, we have these things called lunch and learn. So the position that I'm currently in, the solutions engineer position, a couple of people at Epicor came and they talked to the whole BDR business development kind of group, and they kind of talked through their role, what they do on a week, month basis, what their roles are at the company. And I kind of really just jumped on that. They just made it sound so interesting and kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be more hands-on into the sales process there. And so just by them talking about how much more they've kind of learned from that and what they get to do and what they get to see, I really just kind of jumped on that chance when an opening came up, and I was able to secure that.
And you've been in the solutions engineering side of things for a few years now?
Yep, about three years and some change I've been in this position.
What are some of the things that you like the most about it now that you've had some experience?
Yeah, kind of I kind of mentioned it a little bit at the beginning of this, but each company that we get to visit is just so different. Just the things that they're making, these products that they're producing, just so many of them do things so differently. And so I think that is one of my favorite parts, is to just see all of these different companies. And just the items that they're producing are just so cool. And now I catch myself even just driving down the highway. I'm like, I wonder how they're making those, or, I wonder what software they're using. That looks like something I've seen before. And so I just catch myself doing that now. And so just seeing all of those different types of items that, I know have to get produced, but now I get to see kind of how they are being manufactured. I think that's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I know you're talking about seeing things just in everyday life and wondering how it's made. And a lot of people have come on here saying that they want to have a lot of people have come on here saying that they want to see some sort of purpose in their work. They want to feel a sense of purpose. And that's a perfect way to explain it, is by showing them why the work they do matters, what it has in real world applications. But you told me you didn't know what you really wanted to do after college. So when did you realize that sense of purpose at Epicor?
Yeah, I think kind of the solutions engineering role at Epicor is a bit unique. We get to show our software, we get to solution, you could say, our software for different companies. So kind of how we go in there and we hear these pain points, we hear these, issues that people are kind of facing with how they're currently running, maybe how they currently aren't utilizing different software. And we get to go in and show how Epicor's software could possibly aid them and kind of more streamline those processes and really help them on their day-to-day kind of tasks there. And just seeing, that click moment, that aha moment when we are showing something that really could just benefit their day in so many ways, or, something that once took them 5 hours now could take them 30 minutes, and just seeing kind of their eyes light up about those little things that I show every day, but they don't have access to every day. Just seeing them kind of latch onto those, I think that really makes me feel like it's for something, kind of that purpose like you mentioned.
And you said you often get to walk the shop floors of the companies that you visit. What has surprised you the most about a shop floor?
That's a good question. I think that one of the things that surprises me the most is just how efficiently they can go through different processes, and seeing all these massive kind of machines that do these little tasks on every day, and just opening my eyes to just what all goes into making a product that maybe in the past I wouldn't think had so many different steps that had to go through it. But now I see that it has to go through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 62 different steps before it can actually even go out the door. Just kind of seeing how they get all of those things done, I think that's really surprised me. And it kind of just opens my, like I mentioned, kind of seeing different things now, and I'm kind of put together, how must that be kind of made, and I wonder how they're actually producing that item. I think that's always a big thing on the shop floor that surprised me, is just how many little things go into kind of their product that they're making.
We often see companies struggle to find young shop floor workers. So what do you think shop floors offer that Gen Z can really appreciate more than they realize?
Yeah, I think that kind of like I mentioned, with all of those little parts kind of equaling that something bigger, I think that kind of on a shop floor, you see that immediately. You kind of get to be that kind of cog in the wheel, and then you get to see that product kind of go out the door and be a part of something that does kind of help people down the line. And your product allows people kind of outside of your business to complete something else over there. So just being kind of that kind of kickstart point in a process, I think that Gen Z kind of latches onto that, wants to feel like we're, a part of something bigger, a part of something that actually matters at the end of the day. So I think that's a big kind of key point, I would say.
Do you have any friends, peers from college that have gone into the manufacturing industry as well?
Yeah, a couple. Some are directly on the shop floor. They're, in the engineer. Some people went the engineering side. Some people went more on the trades route. Some people went the software route, like I did. So kind of the wide breadth of people that did go kind of more in the manufacturing vertical. Yes.
As you keep in touch with them, what are you hearing from them? What do they like about their jobs? What do they dislike about their jobs?
Yeah, I think they like how hands-on they can be, and they like kind of learning and solving different problems, especially kind of on the engineering side, re-engineering things. I hear that a lot. People are in kind of the CAD software all day, kind of moving things around. One of my friends definitely says that quite a bit. But something I think that they kind of look for, and kind of where I come into play too, is just, just constantly upgrading and kind of looking for that kind of, how can we streamline this a little bit more? How can we improve these processes? I think they come in with that new kind of brain power. Maybe they're not as much on the legacy data side of things, kind of the tribal knowledge, but they're trying to kind of pull in that new viewpoint on how something could be done in a more kind of streamlined fashion. And I think that's something that they can bring to the table that might not be going as well right now, but that's something that they provide to their companies there.
Do you ever hear any of them talk about pushback they get from older colleagues regarding streamlining the technology that young people like to use?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that comfortability part of it. People are comfortable with the way that they're doing things, and it's working. And so it's kind of why I change it. But it is important to kind of stay current, stay youthful, you could say. And so I definitely hear that that's something that they get a little pushback on, but it's also something that they like to push back on. So ask them why. Okay, well, why are we doing it that way? I know we've done it that way, but do we have a specific reason? Why not try this? So they get pushback, but they also push back themselves.
Yeah, I've just learned from talking to everyone on here that technology that's available, the young people want to use, that just seems to be something that they really value.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're much more, dialed into that, you could say. Not to pun in there, but yes, for sure.
Do you think young people who aren't considering a manufacturing position right now, do you think they understand how high tech the industry has become? I mean, you're a pretty good example of someone who doesn't have the stereotypical manufacturing job, but yet you still found your way into the industry. Do people understand all the options that are there now?
No, I don't think they do. And I mean, I don't think even I realized it right away before I got into it a little bit more. I feel like it's kind of that hidden gem. It's such a good industry to get to be a part of, I could say. It kind of, is the backbone of a lot of things. And so it's a cool one to be a part of, but I don't think people realize just how many different assets or kind of avenues they could take to just be a part of that industry. So I think there is kind of a lesser amount of knowledge known on just what a manufacturing job could look like, including mine.
Thank you for watching this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. Please make sure to like and share the episode. To view previous episodes, visit manufacturing.net. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please contact Nolan Beilstein at nolan@in.com.